or tactical team.
Hey there guys, this is me, Malorian, and this is another Orc Tactical Team. And today we're going to be talking about why tournaments suck. Now, what this really comes from is that if you guys are part of my Mr. Malorian Facebook page, and if you're not, you should, because there's memes every day, the last one I did there's quite a few people who didn't get part of it. The whole joke was talking about strength of schedule, which I thought was a pretty common thing going around, but there's a fair number of people who didn't know what strength of schedule was, who either commented on there or sent me a message asking what's strength of schedule. So, at first I thought maybe I should do a video talking about strength of schedule, but then I thought I might as well grab everything around a tournament because it's part of a larger problem I'd like to talk about that's good to discuss whether you're a big-time tournament goer, a tournament organizer, even a casual person, because this is something that, I mean, the better we can do with this, the better for everyone. Now, why do tournaments suck? Well, let's kind of start from the beginning. My first introduction to tournaments was in Warhammer 40k and Warhammer 40,000. Now in these ones here, you go to the event and you'd be playing with your armies, and at the end of the game you'd be getting some points. Now in that one there, they broke it up to different layers of wins. So in that one there, you could be having a tie, you could be having a win, a minor win, or a major win like the massacres. They've broken up lots of different ways, but the main thing there is that the level of win you got gave you different amount of points. And that, in combined with other things, say like if there's sportsmanship scores or painting scores, would give you a final overall score. And then using that final overall score, they can then rank you from first to last. And it's all about ranking, right? These tournaments, you're going there, you want to be first, but even if you're a person who's going to a tournament and you're not aiming to be first, still even at that point there, you're probably saying, well, I want to be above the top half, something like that. But the whole premise behind this is that the tournament is a way of ranking. It's a way of saying, all right, this pool of people, this is where you fill in. You are number 1, good for you. You are number 2, pretty close. You came in 18. Hey, it's out of 15. 18's not so bad. You got in 49th. I'm glad you had fun. You know, all that type of stuff there. That's kind of what tournaments are in a way designed to actually do, is to actually rank people. Now, there's lots of different ways to do it within War Machine, right? Now, War Machine is a little bit different. As compared to, say, like the GW days, where I said there's different levels of winning, well, in War Machine, you either win or you lose. There could be multiple ways you can actually do it. You could be winning by caster kill, by scenario, by death clock. The guy should just give up. But in all these different scenarios, that W is exactly the same. That's all that matters. There's a W, there's an L, there's a tie for some reason. I don't know why that's on the sheet, but that's really it. Now the problem with this in War Machine is that when you try and take this and apply it at the end of the day, is that if all you have is W's and L's, there's not a lot to stratify people and actually break them down into different ranks. So how are you actually going to say, well, which ones are ranked higher than others? Now, right now, I'm sure in your mind, you're already thinking like, this is how we do it, Malorian. Why are you ignoring this? There's this way that I do it. The problem is that a lot of different groups do it in different ways. And each one has its pluses and its minuses. Now, let's start with one of the first ones that's out there, which is really by control points. Now, if you do it by control points, that means that at the end of the day, you're going to be looking at things. You're going to say, okay, you got 3 wins out of 4 games. There you go. Well, where are we going to rank you with the other people who got 3 wins? Well, who got the most control points? Oh, okay, well, I got 5 out of the day. You got 12. Oh, okay, you got more control points. You're going to go above me. And by using something like that, that's how we can actually rank the people. Now, of course, you're going to have ties again, so you need to have additional tie breaks. And again, with that one there, the most commonly one used is points destroyed, right? That's something where it's great. As a tournament organizer where you want that stratification, something like points destroyed is amazing. Because even like control points, it's kind of variable. Like over 4 games, you're going to have somewhere between 0 and 15. So that's a pretty good range. But even then, you're going to be having ties. When it comes to points destroyed, well, now that we're talking about, you know, like so many points that could be in your list, you know, we're talking about like over 100 points you could be scoring over 5 games. Wow, that distribution and the amount of variance you can have in there pretty much means that that's all the tie breaks you need. Now it's pretty easy to break everything down. Well, that's not the only way that people do tie breaks. People do tie breaks in different ways. The other most common way of doing it is actually strength of schedule. Now, if you haven't heard of strength of schedule before, this is actually something that kind of comes from some of the other games, very popular in, say, like Magic the Gathering. And what the whole premise behind the strength of schedule is like, okay, well, just wait a second. That other one there where you broke it up by control points, well, who's to say that someone who won by assassination, that's better by control points? Maybe we should actually be doing a tiebreak saying who got the most assassinations. Otherwise, why are we saying that getting a win by a control points is better than the other ones? Why are we rewarding them? At the same time, what about death clock? Maybe we should be having a tiebreak saying who had the most time difference between clocks, right? Why is that not something that we're having preferred? Why are we all focusing on to the actual control points? And maybe, you know, the scenario, right? The one that you got it with the way with the terrain was down, it was easier for you to get control points. So that was not fair, right? All these different complaints can be in there. But what this really comes down to in strength of schedule says, okay, look, who cares about the way you won? The main thing that matters here is that you won. The more important question is, who did you beat? Because if I go through and I get 4 wins, and you know, the first couple of people I play, they're kind of new to the hobby, they're here for fun, and then I kind of get another person who's like pretty tough, and then the last one, okay, that was a little bit of a harder game, boom, there you go, 4 wins. Meanwhile, you could have somebody else who goes into the tournament and first round just randomly draws the person who won the last tournament. Oh wow, this is going to be one hell of a first round. Second round, okay, this is another really top player, and all the way through. Well, if we both end up, let's say for example we can't get all the way to a singular top person, if we get down to say now these 2 people are 4-0, we didn't have time for a game 5, who should actually be first? Well, this person played harder players, and the way that you calculate that is you take all their opponents and add up the number of wins they had, right? So by that idea, the person who played against the people who got the most wins played against harder opponents, stronger opponents, and then therefore their 4-0 is a stronger 4-0, and they deserve to be ranked higher. And of course, it's not just at the top, right? This could be if you're 3-1, 2-2, whatever. If you look at strength of schedule, that's a way of actually basing it. So that's great, right? Why don't we all just do that one? Well, unfortunately, that one has its own issues. Some of the biggest issues with strength of schedule is that you have no control over it. If I come into a tournament and I'm the strongest player there, but it just turns out that, hey, first game, the person I played, they're just new to the hobby. So, I mean, they didn't get any wins. And that's really hurting my strength of schedule. Is that really fair? Sure, I might have had an easier path to the top, but I'm still the best player here, right? I deserve to be up higher. Why are you ignoring this fact over something I had no control over whatsoever? Or another example is when you have an odd number of people and you need to do pair-ups or pair-downs. All of a sudden, if you are the pair down, so to make things even, let's say you're having someone who is a 3-1 playing against someone who's a 2-2 going to the next round, well, right away I'm taking a hit to my strength of schedule just because of where I randomly placed and nothing to do with myself. Now, what my meme was about, and another massive issue I have with strength of schedule, is also with drops. Now, in War Machine, drops are very common, and I'm not, as a TO even, I'm not really against drops. Now, the whole idea with this is that wherever you want in the tournament, I just drop out. Because it's not really set up like the Games Workshop games we talked about, where there's major wins and massacres and different levels of wins, well, that means there's no way to catch up, right? If you lose one game, it's not like I'll just make sure I get massacres for my other games and I can rank up higher and maybe can still win this. If you lose one game or 2 games, you know you're on the way down type thing, right? And maybe I just want to go and have supper, or maybe I'm feeling sick, or maybe whatever I want to drop. The problem with that is if somebody drops, that means for the strength of schedule, they're getting 0 wins from that point forward. So again, I could be going in and I could be playing that top player first round and beat them and be like, yes, that's amazing, I beat that #1 player, and then they decide, you know what, whatever, I'm going to drop. And now I get 0 points. So sure, I got to win, but as far as strength of schedule goes, they're a big fat 0. And sure, if I'm undefeated all the way up and we go to a single undefeated person by the end of the tournament, it doesn't matter. But if I lose any games and it comes down to strength of schedule for preparing, or for ranking rather, yeah, that's a massive, massive blow. And these drops happen all the time. So that's why I feel that strength of schedule, it has some real issues. Like, not only for the TO, it's a little bit more tougher to try and... It's just an extra layer of calculation the tournament organizer needs to do. But at the same time, for the player, hey, just like how going by the objective points and the scenario points wasn't fair, this one has its own problems. Now, people have tried getting around this in other ways where they're saying, well, okay, what if it's a modified strength of schedule? So what they mean by that is they're going to be changing the calculation. So instead of just being straight up that whoever you play, that's how many wins you get, let's make the games that you play later on, like round 3 and round 4, worth more than the ones that you start off with. So that way, if you do have someone who's randomly new in the first round, it doesn't really hurt you. If somebody drops from the very beginning, it doesn't hurt you as much. And that does help. And I mean, I can't give you the math because there's lots of different formulas they use for the different percentages or ratios or whatever have you. But it's a better system because it makes it so those later ones are worth more. However, it's still flawed, right? It's still flawed in that it's the same thing if I'm a pair up, pair down. It's the same thing where if somebody drops, even though it hurts me less, it still hurts me. And so what we're really left at the end of the day is that no matter what you think is the right way to be ranking players, there is some way that it can be biased and be unfair in some situations, especially once the players know about it, right? If a player goes in knowing that winning by clock, differential, having more time left on your clock is going to be the #1 tiebreak after wins, well, they're going to play a list that's really, really fast, and it's going to change it. If they're going in at the tournament, they're saying you have to go by control points. Well, even though I might get the win, I'm going to be taking my control list that's going for more scenario points rather than regular just going to go and kill you by assassination. So players can game whatever situation there is, and then even if it's not a problem of the gamers gaming it, then there's the other just like statistical issues of like, well, what if there's a pair up, pair down, or a drop, or something else like this that just messes up the numbers. So that's the real problem with tournaments. That's the whole premise with this part here, where the tournaments are here to try and rank you. Well, the real issue is that there's no fair way to actually rank people. And depending on which method you use, and whether sometimes you get lucky or not with, you know, the way that people dropped, or the way that the tie breaks are already worded, you know, especially if you're not a person who's the 4-0, if you're one of the 3-1s or the 2-2s, the number of spots that could mean a difference to you is huge, right? If you're a person who's caring about whether you're in the top half or the bottom half, well, this is a major factor for it, and it's not something you have any control over, really, unless it's something where you're kind of like gaming the system. Now, I guess the follow-up question is, well, Malorian, if everything's awful, what do you think is the right thing to do? And there actually is something I actually feel we should be doing, but it's such a vast and different way of doing this, so out of the box, that I don't know if people would actually go for it. And what my idea is get rid of the rankings. You know, we said the tournaments are all for rankings. I think that's bullshit. I think the whole idea where we're going to say, hey, group of people, here, let me rank you and tell you how good you are. Okay, I realize that tournaments are there to kind of determine, like, okay, let's bring people together and figure out a winner, but for the most part, whether you're 16th or 18th or whatever, does that really matter? Is that really the point of what this tournament's all about? What I'd rather do is go to an event and be able to see, okay, at the end of the day, this person here, they went 4-0. Hey, everybody, this person came in 4-0. All right, the people that all came in 3-1, these are all the people. Good for you. Otherwise, you know all the other different groups, and there you go. That's tiers. You got your 4-0 tier, you got your 3-1 tier, your 2-2 tier, your 1-3, and then your 0-4. And it's all about what tier you fall into. I guess you could say that really is still ranking, and it kind of does what the tournament's all about, but it's not forcing it to that point where it says, oh, okay, well, you know, because we did the tie breaks this way, you would have been 3rd, but now you're 12th. Sorry, that's the way it goes. It takes all of that out and says, you know what, you won 3 games. You're 3-1. That's awesome. Good for you. Now, as a tournament organizer, what that probably means then is that I have to have more awards ready. Depending on the number of people coming to my event, instead of having a first, second, third, for example, I would need to make sure I have something probably really good for the 4-0 person, and then for all the 3-1s, maybe something a little bit smaller, right? Depending on the size and the other people, you know, maybe I can't do a trophy for them all, but something, right? Something that goes to all the 3-1s, or maybe nothing at all, right? Maybe I just make sure there's something big and awesome for the 4-0, and for everybody else, maybe I put the money into making sure that I have more random draws for painting, and more random draws for everybody, or maybe I drop the price, or maybe I get better food, or whatever. I can handle that money lots of different ways as a tournament organizer, but the point is that, you know, if somebody's complaining at the end and saying, well, who came in second? That person's in first, but who came in second? Okay, the system's flawed. Do you understand this? Do you understand that depending on how I'm going and doing the magic behind the blanket here, that you could be second or you could be seventh, and it's just something that's probably completely out of your control? Is that really what I want to tell you? Sure, you're 3rd and a half. Are you happy there? Go away. You know how you did. You know you went in there and you did 3-1, you did 4-0, you did 2-2, whatever it is. Isn't that what you're really after? So again, that's really outside the box, and I know for some issues that won't even work for some people. For me here, one of the things I know that really still cause an issue is if I run my, let's say, Love Machine tournament, and I do that, and I do it by brackets. Sure, that's great. People will love it. If I do this for my Masters, for my Blood and Gears tournament, and I do people in tiers, that's a big problem. And the reason why it's a big problem is because of other events. For example, we have the Alberta War Machine Invitational, and depending on how you do on different events, that's how you get points to be invited to this invite-only tournament at the end. So that really is important, right? Did you come in 3rd? Did you come in 4th? Did you come in 5th? Because you get different points for each of those. Of course, my answer to that is I wish that other things also follow that ranking system, and then it really doesn't matter. But the problem is that unless we're kind of all on board, if there is these kind of like interlocking tournament series or leagues or whatever have you, then it really falls apart. So I really wish we could get this idea across that, you know, let's take the blinders off, and, you know, all the people have been looking at the rankings at the end of the day and wondering if they're 12th or 17th or 32th or whatever, realize that it is a flawed system no matter what system you apply, and really, let's just look at the brackets, because that's what's really important. Anyway, guys, I would love to get your feedback on this. If you feel that you do have a format that would just answer all the questions, please post it down below, and let's talk this one out. Anyway, we'll catch you later, and bye.